People hate Jews, do you agree? The very word makes their skin crawl. They undermine traditional life, and they deracinate society. You can take the greatest Jewish minds ever. Marx, Freud, Einstein, what have they given us? Communism, infantile sexuality, and the atom bomb.
Danny, this is great, but how can you believe all of this when you're a Jew yourself?
The Believer is an American film released in 2001 that is loosely based on a real event. The film is directed by Henry Bean and stars a young Ryan Gosling as Daniel Balint, a young neo-Nazi from New York who happens to be Jewish. The conflict in this film lives inside Danny. His self-hatred of being Jewish leads him into a violent neo-Nazi lifestyle. Once matters become serious to the extent of damaging synagogues, leading an above-ground fascist movement, and attempted assassination, Danny's Jewish roots contradict himself and he is torn between what to believe in. Now, it was never explained why Danny became the way he is, but as a child he constantly questioned and challenged his Hebrew school teacher about the story of the binding of Isaac. He argues the Orthodox version and states that God asked Abraham to sacrifice his son because God is simply a power-drunk bully, shortly after claiming he's the only one in class that actually loves God. Danny also comes from a very non-stereotypical Jewish family. They live in the slums of New York, and his mother is unknown. In this scene, he sits with his father as they talk about how impractical Shabbat law is. The beginning of this film gives viewers the impression that Danny has no remorse for his own kind and has abandoned his religion. The film opens with him taunting a Jewish kid in broad daylight. He wears a swastika shirt for most of the beginning half of the film and also attends anti-Semitist retreats throughout northeastern Pennsylvania. However, after a sensitivity training session where a Holocaust survivor tells the story of how a Nazi soldier killed his son, Danny's respect for Judaism begins to reveal itself. He hides his true feelings by telling the Holocaust survivor to kill your enemy, although he revisions the story over and over, sometimes seeing himself as a Nazi, sometimes as a Holocaust survivor. This movie does not show a transformation of belief, but instead portrays an internal fight held inside all along. Danny's strong knowledge of Judaism is revealed, but he continues to plan anti-Semitist attacks that he cannot follow through. After vandalizing the synagogue, he repairs the Torah his friends destroyed. He ends his fascist movement he decided to lead by telling everyone to love Judaism, and when given the chance he dreamed of to kill Manzetti, he purposely misses his target. A powerful scene of Danny caught between the war inside himself is him alone doing a combination of Nazi salutes while making Jewish prayer hand gestures. On Danny's final plan of anti-Semitism where he plans to bomb in a synagogue, he has a vision of the Holocaust survivor, this time both as a Nazi and as a Jew. Instead of evacuating everyone including himself, he stays behind, killing the Jewish Danny planted by his racist act, but also killing the Nazi Danny as he died by the Torah. Danny ultimately kills himself, the enemy. The final scene symbolizes Jacob's ladder. Danny finds himself in his old Hebrew school walking up the steps towards nothingness. The Believer reflects a Jewish identity crisis that was common in the United States throughout the 60s and 70s. Frank Collins was a leader of the National Socialist Party of America in the 70s. He led a march through Jewish suburbs of Illinois, but was later found to be Jewish himself. Not only that, but his father was a Holocaust survivor. The Believer is based on the story of Daniel Burroughs. Like Collins, Daniel hid his Jewish identity and was a member of anti-Semitism parties throughout America. Unlike Collins, Burroughs killed himself after his heritage was made public. The Believer stays loyal to the story of Daniel Burroughs, having Danny from Queens, New York, and attending retreats throughout the Poconos. Both Burroughs and Balint were interviewed and had their identities published by the New York Times, and ended their lives because of it, although in different ways.
Henry Bean, the director of this film, stated in an interview that this story was embedded in his head for 25 years prior to making the film. Henry Bean himself is Jewish. He explained that even though his family was not extremely religious, there were people who hated them. Bean thought of this film as a way to explore that aspect of his life. He didn't want to be Jewish, but at the same time, he didn't not want to be Jewish. Henry described The Believer was partially a response to films about Jewish culture at the time. He expressed how uncomfortable he felt that the Holocaust had become a genre of filmmaking in the industry, and that the Holocaust had become the religion of so many American Jews. He claimed to resent movies such as Life is Beautiful, where a father convinces his son that their time at a concentration camp is merely a game, and Schindler's List, where a German businessman employs Polish Jews in his factory in order to keep them from going to concentration camps. With that being said, Bean made this film with no intention of it having huge success or being massively distributed. He expected the film to receive criticism and controversy the way The Last Temptation of Christ had, where Jesus departs from gospel narratives found in the Bible and lives a normal life. As expected, The Believer did end up receiving much controversy. Rabbi Abraham Cooper, the dean of a notorious Jewish human rights organization, called the movie a primer for anti-Semitism.
The Believer was originally supposed to be named The Fanatic, but it was changed due to the fact that a movie with a similar title released around the same time. Being contacted and hung out with a group of highly reputable white supremacists in Queens for inspiration on how to capture their lifestyle in the film. Ryan Gosling was selected for the role of Danny because of his understanding of religion. Henry felt that a lot of it had to do with Gosling being a Mormon, which is demanding and isolates you the same way Judaism isolates you, which Gosling understood. Although most of the drama in The Believer comes from Gosling's killer acting, Bean uses cinematic devices to amplify the physical conflict, such as close-up shots on Danny, over-the-shoulder shots, and monochrome to show the mental conflicts, such as the flashbacks to him in Hebrew school and the Nazi Germany scenario.
You're not like the others, are you? Like your friends?
Yes, I am.
Although not as common in today's society, The Believer is a reminder of the active anti-Semitism that was found in the United States, especially so close to home. Although it is never explained why Danny became the way he was, Danny embodies mysteries and contradictions most of us have experienced, although not as exaggerated as in this particular case. The Believer is relevant to today's society because it deals with issues that most of us have dealt with, such as questioning one's faith and questioning one's identity. Most of us have been at a crossroads in our faith before between what we believe in and perhaps maybe what we want to believe. Ryan Gosling's character epitomizes this. This also goes along with having issues with one's identity. You're gonna have to edit the shit out of that.